ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me one. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signifier of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I. Your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. Ooh, and as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you, so will I. So will I. So will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still falls shy, we'll sing again 100 billion times. Oh, my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind. God, thank you so much for those words, for that reminder that we're not left behind, and that you love each and every one of us, no matter how uniquely you've made us. God, I thank you for this line that says, as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. You cover every single one of our errors and mistakes. And instead of punishing us for them, you give us grace and mercy and just surround us with love and still treat us exactly the same. God, today as we're talking about purpose, about what we're made for, what we're designed for, no matter what individual purpose each of us have, God, we know we're designed to be in relationship with you, to serve you, to worship you. And so I just pray that we would find something that we can do. We can love others. We can study your word even deeper than we ever have before. Whatever it is, God, help us find something that we can take away and just worship you this week. I'm so thankful for Refinery, for Pastor Landon, for all the staff and all the volunteers who make this place run. Thank you, God, for putting us in this family. As Landon comes forward, God, just be with him. Speak to us today. In your name I pray. Amen.
Well, good morning. Just a quick question for you. It's Thanksgiving week, right? And so it's going to be a good week, y'all, okay? If you do it right, it's going to be a good week. It's going to be a one belt notch loosening week, okay? But I was just kind of curious, just to start this way, how many cranberry sauce people we have in the room? Just raise your hand if you're, okay. Now, I need to clarify. How many people are kind of the like real cranberry sauce people? Show of hands. Okay. And then how many are God's goodness out of the can cranberry sauce people? Thank you. Thank you. To me, it's not really Thanksgiving until you hear that, you know. That's when you know we have much to be thankful for. Whatever kind of cranberry sauce people you are, I'm glad you're here. If you're the canned people, I'm a little bit more glad, though. Listen, I do hope you have a great time gathering with family or friends. I told the first service, as I love this time of year. Coming into Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, it's all kind of one piece for me. An opportunity to reflect on how much we have to be grateful for. And then this season of anticipation, of remembering Christ's arrival into the world, and then the anticipation that he will come again. How exciting that is. But I want to give just a little guidance, if I may, for prayer as you're kind of going into the end of the calendar year. I find two things to be most beneficial when it comes to prayer. And sometimes people are like, I'm not sure what to pray or how to pray or anything like that. I think these two things are incredibly beneficial for anyone, regardless of stage of walk or how long you've been walking with Jesus. Or the first thing is just silence, just to be quiet before God. And you might say, man, Landon, but when I'm quiet, I get distracted. I got to keep my mind moving. It's like, all right, let the distractions come. It's like, well, they'll keep coming. Let them come for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 30 minutes, for an hour if you need to. Let them come. And just finding yourself quiet with God. There's tremendous power there. And then the second thing is just an opportunity to express gratitude to God. Before you ever get to start asking for anything or lifting concerns or problems or challenges, just express gratitude. God, I'm grateful for, and I'm thankful for, and man, you've provided this, and man, you showed up in this way. And then if you still have time to pray after those two things, then do whatever you want. But I find those two things to be incredibly beneficial. I'd encourage you, just as we enter into this time of Thanksgiving and the Advent season here, just to put those into practice. I found them to be incredibly helpful for my own life. This morning we're going to wrap up our Back to Life series, though. And the central idea that's run throughout the series is that God can always bring back to life, what is dead, back to life in him. That's been the central theme. And it doesn't always look like what we would anticipate, though. It's not always how we would expect it to come about. And that really shouldn't be surprising because God has infinite resources, infinite knowledge and wisdom, infinite experience. And so naturally, when he looks at your life, when he looks at my life, when he looks at our world, the picture that he sees is far richer, far more complete. And so he's not constrained to the ways that we see it or the ways that we've experienced it. He knows what is good, and he longs to bring that about in our lives. Today, we're going to wrap up the series. We're going to talk about God's calling on our lives. And I'd like to invite Ben Cannon. He's our Director of Student Ministry. He's going to join me on the platform. And it happened both times. Sweet. You never know for sure, but yeah. Yeah, and welcome, Ben. First service didn't instinctively welcome you. So second service, yeah. First service we had to force. But second service, you guys are on it. You're ready. Hey, so you are aware of this, or you should be aware of this. If you're not, don't raise your hand and say, I didn't know that, because you're going to be telling on yourself, okay? About a month ago, we sent out in a newsletter sharing about Ben's going to be transitioning out of his role at the end of this calendar year. And so then we followed that up that week with an email directed to all parents of teenagers, just kind of, hey, here's next steps, just so you're aware. And then Ben was able to talk with the students that Thursday about that process a little bit. And as we were coming up on just this time of transition, it's like, man, it'd be great to have Ben just share a little bit of his story. And it just so worked perfect to where we are today. But let's start this way. Ben, just share a little bit just with the church about, man, your life, your faith, like what that looked like for you.
Yeah, I grew up going to church. My family it was always something that we did every Sunday. We'd go to our church. I grew up in Springfield, Ohio, and on Sundays we went to church. And I, from an early age, I think I gained an appreciation for the just the caring nature of the church. My mother passed away when I was young. I've got three siblings. When I was 5, my mother passed away unexpectedly, and I just remember just feeling so cared for by our local church. People showing up at the house with food, people checking on us when we were there on Sunday, and so from an early age, I just had a real physical manifestation of the love of God, right, among the people of the church, and that stuck with me. And so at that church, it was kind of a more maybe more structured in terms of the classes and things that young people worked through than what we are used to here. But so I went to like baptism classes at a certain age, took catechism classes, and then became like a member of our church. So I was always engaged there in the church. But then as I finished high school, went off to college, my faith kind of took a backseat, and I was at a public university, Ohio State University here, a great university, but it was easy to kind of just leave my faith on the back burner, right? Not pursue it on my own as much as would have been good for me. And so during that time, towards the end of college, I did have there was this emptiness. There was something, I knew there was something more. I knew that I needed to get back to this relationship with Jesus. But I wasn't quite sure how to go about it. There were plenty of churches in the area, and there were a few friends that were semi-interested in going, but it never worked out to go with them. And I tried a few on my own, just showed up at a church, and it was just weird showing up. Some of you have done it before, and it's been okay. We tried to create a welcoming place here, but for me, it just felt like it was challenging to connect on my own. And so I was home on break from school one week, it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, and coming back, my older brother, I think it was somewhere over here. Maybe he's not in service anymore.
He walked out.
Yeah, he's back there. He saw me coming up stage, and he was like, "Hey." And he just slunk down in his chair. Matt and Takako, his family, attend here, and he was interested to check out a church, and so he invited me to come, and I was so ready for that invitation that I was like, "Yeah, I'll go with you." And so we came here. It was called Life Point at the time, and we met down there in the gym, which used to be the worship center. And I hated it. It was not what I was used to.
If you're here today and you hate it, we might hire you.
Yeah. There's an opening coming up.
Just keep coming.
Yeah. But it was just different than what I was used to. I was used to, pipe organ, and they had guitars on stage. I was used to reading the service out of the hymnal, and people were like raising up their hands during worship and like stepping out in the aisle. I was like, this is not for me. But Matt wanted to come back, so I was like, okay, he's going again. I'll go again. And the more I came, the more I got used to the pastor's thing here, bigger than the one you have, but it was like
it's like Justin Timberlake's Bye 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 for those that ever.
I was like, I don't love that. And I don't know why those little things like bothered me, right? But it just was out of the ordinary for me, I think, when it came to church. But as we came more, I got to know some of the people. I started going to a life group, and I even got to know some of the people who were up on the stage, right? Like some of the people who worshipped, who had their guitars on stage, and I was like, oh, they are like genuine. They really mean this. It's not some performance. And I got to know the pastor, Brad, at the time, and I was like, and I connected with his story and the way he shared his faith, and so it became my church, right? And I got that push and that community where I could re-engage in my own personal relationship with Jesus. So it became something where I looked forward to being here on Sunday. Hang out with kids on Sunday morning. I was working volunteering in the nursery then, and going on mission trip. And so it became this great place where I was able to fit and connect and grow.
Yeah. And so what happens, you go to Ohio State, you get your Bachelor of Science in Biology, and then you go for your Master of Epidemiology, and you're working in a lab at Ohio State. The next logical step, youth pastor. So that's typically the way you go. If you don't have an advanced degree in the sciences, we won't even consider you. No, but so talk about how that kind of came about.
It's not something that when I was in middle school or high school, I was like, man, this is the career path, right, that I imagined for myself. I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was in school, and I'm glad that didn't work out, because I think I would have been a bad one.
His dog's sick presently.
Yes.
That's an issue.
She's not doing.
I told him my dog has an issue, and he said, I can't help. My dog has issues as well.
Yep. Same boat. But I had been volunteering with students, and I started volunteering with students because I attended a mission trip to Guatemala. Our church has had a long partnership with different missionaries and folks down in Guatemala. And so this was, I went on a trip, and on that trip there were a few teenagers that happened to be a part of that, and I just had a great time connecting with them on that trip. And when I came back, they'd asked the leader, he's like, hey, we should get Ben here. My brother was volunteering at the time, and so he let me know that they wanted me to show up. They remembered that I was on the trip, hoping to connect as we were back, and so I did. I started showing up, and it became something that I developed a passion for. It wasn't something that I knew that I was interested in, right, until I got to experience it, and it changed my life from that point. And so I led, a middle school guys group that was what I was doing initially. I think a few of those guys were here first service. I think Drew was back there. I think he was there. And now he's got his own wife, and he and his wife actually serve as some of the life group leaders in the student ministry. So it's been a cool journey. But I volunteered, spent a lot of time with students, and at the same time working at Ohio State. I worked in research for about 10 years, and my wife was working on a PhD, and so her, the life of a PhD student is not glamorous. You don't have a lot of income, not a lot of spare time, but she was wrapping up, and then it allowed me to kind of slow down and think, do I want to remain in this career, or is there something different for me? And I didn't know exactly what it would be, but I just knew that I wanted to be more available for students. I'd been volunteering, but I managed an on-call team at the university, and I couldn't always be as available as I wanted. Sometimes get called in the middle of the night and have to work through the night. And it was exciting work, it was challenging work, and I was good at it, but I felt like God was helping me see that maybe there's an opportunity here. And right around the time I was thinking all of this, I was like, well, maybe it's a job in ministry. And there was a church in the area that had posted like a program manager position at their church, and I was like, maybe I'll apply for that. It's a job in ministry. I feel like this is what God has next for me. And so I told my wife, and she was like, what? Because that was the first she knew that I was like considering a career change. So we stayed awake for a long time that night, prayed about it, and I was like, man, I gotta talk to Brad, the pastor at the time, about what he would think might be a next step. Like, should I go back to school, or what would that look like? Before I could talk to him, we had a youth group, and the youth leader at the time announced that he was stepping down. And so I did meet with Brad anyway about what the interim would look like, and I was telling him kind of what I was experiencing. And so we agreed to kind of see what it would look like for me to take it slow, take that leadership role slow, see if it was a good fit for me and my family, a good fit for the church. And it was 8 years. And
it was a good fit.
Yeah,
it worked
out.
Yeah, from hating it to leading it. So no, it's been fantastic. And so when Ben popped into did you pop into my office? Yeah, you popped in my office. So I checked on him. We were touching base about something, and then about a week later, he said, hey, you got a minute? Typically, when your staff asks that, it's not a good thing. So I need to get trained to be like, no, I'm busy. Leave me alone. Because then I can just push everything away. No, I said, yeah. And so he basically just talked a little bit about where he's kind of been processing, what he feels like God has next for him. And so the language he used when he felt like he was led into youth ministry was called into youth ministry. And then with this, he's like, I feel like God has called me now to essentially relinquish this, release this, and to step into a new chapter of something else. Talk a little bit about like what that looked like for you. And I know district licensing, some of the pursuit of that was part of that. And
it was at a place where I was, considering or content with ministry, content with my role. Approaching a district license, so that would be the next phase towards like ordination, towards
just our credentialing process within our
tradition. In any career, you might have like marks along the way to be certified, right, in a certain role. Same thing here. And so I was considering that and thinking, okay, fill the application, turned it in. Advisory team actually met and said, yes, he's going to move forward with this. And then it was like the next week I was like, hey.
Never mind.
But I think that was kind of a turning point to help me evaluate or consider again, right? Is this what God does have me in for the next 10 years or however long? And so it allowed me, I think, to slow down and consider that in my own life. What would the next step look like? And so as I got a chance to talk to students about it, I let them know that this wasn't something that I was like running away from, like a bad position I was in, right, or a job that I didn't feel comfortable in. I wasn't running away from that, and there's not some role that I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. I'm gonna try to get that. But instead, it's just trying to be obedient to what I sensed God doing in my life, and that is recognizing that I felt like it was time for someone new in the role, new passion, new connection, new energy for students and families. But it's been a great time for me. I've really enjoyed getting to know students and families, and there's a great team of ministry partners that I've gotten to meet over the years, grow with over the years, and they get to connect with the students and their families too at this church. So I'm grateful that I've had that opportunity, grateful that they are here to continue to guide students as I'll be around through the end of the year, but then step away so that things can continue here, and then again, I don't have it's not like a role I'm stepping into, but I'm on the lookout for opportunities, probably based in my background in research, but we'll see. We'll see what's ahead. But I thought I could have I thought about, no, I can do this, I can get through it.
White knuckle it, just hang on,
I'll just
force
go.
it.
Which honestly I probably could have done, right? And but I just didn't think that was honoring what God would have me do, right? Or honoring this place here. And so just as like when I stepped into it, I felt like, oh my gosh, like what a tremendous opportunity to work alongside these other people who were guiding people in their journey, and to meet so many families, and so what a tremendous opportunity it will be for whoever will be next to do the same thing, to step into a healthy place, right? A great place, great coworkers, a great community of families, of individuals, and in student ministry of those families that have teenagers. So it's a great opportunity for whoever will be. And my wife and I will stay here. We've got two boys. My older son is in 6th grade, so he's a part of the student ministry too. So it's exciting to think about what that next phase would look like, as he'll be in it too, and I'll be dropping him off and wondering what's going on, and texting me later like, hey, like what?
Is he doing okay? Is
but I'm excited for that, and whoever the next person will be, and grateful for the time that I've been able to serve here. Grateful to get to know the students and families and the many amazing ministry partners that help make it happen.
Well, I didn't say this first service, but I was reminded too. Like, so for some people, it'd be like, oh, that seems weird, somebody to come on staff and then stop and stay on the church. Like, oh, we kind of do that here. Jen Jupp had been our family ministries director, and she felt like God was calling her to step into a new season, so she did. And she's actively served in our kids, and she's a part of our advisory team now, and she'll be helping in the process of making hires and things like that going forward. And so it is just fantastic. And I love just this notion of, like, I just want to be obedient to what God has. And Ben has served incredibly capably and incredibly faithfully, personally to my family, but then also just to the broader church. And so we're grateful. So I want to offer a word of prayer for Ben, if you'd pray with me. Father, we just thank you for this day. Thank you for Ben, for Cynthia, for Miles, for JJ. Lord, I just pray your blessing upon their family. Lord, I thank you for Ben's obedience, his willingness to say, all right, wherever you say I'm going, whatever you say to do, I'm doing. And so, Lord, I pray for favor as he pursues that new opportunity. And, Lord, I'm excited that he gets to be salt and light in that space. Perhaps even now there's a manager or leader that's like, man, I need somebody in here who would be a person of faith and a person of excellence. Maybe there's somebody working on a team where they've got a family member that's just praying, man, Lord, would you send a missionary into my son or into my daughter's work sphere? And so, Lord, maybe Ben will be that answer to prayer. But God, help us to always follow after you. Lord, I thank you for Ben, his leadership, for the student ministry, for the impact it's made on him, for the impact he's made on it. And we'll give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Would you express appreciation to Ben? Thanks, buddy. Listen, calling matters. I've said it before, and it bears repeating. I'll say it again in the future. The primary calling for all people. What am I called to do? Who am I called to? The primary calling for all people is to love and follow Jesus for life. That, if you're like, well, I don't know what to do, that's what you're to do. That's who you're to be. The primary calling for all people is to love and follow Jesus for life. And then that secondary calling is how we uniquely express that in our work, our vocation, other things. Because we're first followers of Jesus, and then pastors or accountants or doctors or teachers or restaurateurs or whatever it might be. We're first followers of Jesus, and then we see that expressed in all those kind of unique spaces. And so what will we choose, as we sang earlier, to build our lives on? What will we build our life upon? A favorite hymn of the church of mine is My Jesus, I Love Thee. It's an old hymn written in 1862, and there's this verse in the song that has long been the end goal of my life. And this is what the language is. It says, I'll love thee in life, and I will love thee in death, and praise thee as long as thou lendest me breath, and say when the death dew lies cold on my brow, if ever I loved thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. So many times over the last 20 years or more, that line in particular has been my prayer, my hope, my desire. And say when the death dew lies cold on my brow, whenever I come to the end of things, whenever I don't have breath in my lungs any longer, God, I pray that ultimately, more than anything else, I'll say, if ever I love thee, Jesus, it's now. That's my hope. It's my aim. It's my purpose. I want to love and follow Jesus as long as he gives me breath in my lungs. Do you live with a clear call upon your life? A clarity of calling that expresses itself in different vocations and different chapters and different pursuits through the years, but the overarching goal, the overarching aim is him. When you approach your relationships, your work, your resources, whatever it might be, is there just this clarity of purpose? Ephesians 2:8-10 expresses it this way. It says, for it is by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is the gift of God, not from yourselves. It's not by works so that no one can boast. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus. Created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Like God has good work for us to do. Like we're not just taking up space, we're not just biding our time. God has work for you. God has work for me. God has work for us to do. God has in mind for things for us to do. And faith in Jesus is expressed rightly not just through thinking things or believing things, but in doing things. What good works has God called you to in this season of life? What has God called you to? It's with this framework in mind that I want to look at our primary text for today. It comes out of the book of Acts, chapter 9. We'll be in verses 36 through 43. If you're not familiar with the Bible, we're in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Acts. Acts is the second half of Luke's writing. He writes Luke, and then he writes Acts. And this is, the church is kind of going full tilt. Jesus has come. He's lived his life. He's died for all the sins of all humanity, you and me, that we might have a way to know the grace and the fullness of life revealed in him. And the early church is living this out. They're living into the power of the Spirit. And this is what takes place as Peter's going around. He's doing the work of Jesus. When the work of Jesus is done, people notice. It says this, Acts 9, 36 to 43. We'll just do the first few verses, though, to start. It says, in Joppa there was a disciple named Tabitha, and in Greek her name is Dorcas, which is why she typically went by Tabitha. I don't know what you're laughing at. She was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time she became sick and died, and her body was washed and placed in an upstairs room. Now Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, please come at once. Do you ever think about what you're known for? Years ago, in my first job, we did these 360-degree performance evaluations. I don't know if you've been a part of one of those before. It's where the people directly over you on the organizational chart and under you on the organizational chart and alongside you on the organizational chart all evaluate you. So I was a youth pastor, so the way that looked was my lead pastor provided an evaluation, my colleagues, fellow staff provided an evaluation, and then all the ministry partners, youth workers that I worked alongside also provided an evaluation, in addition to parents. And what they're looking for is not like a singular comment, just like we do with the survey. Like a singular comment isn't as significant of note, but common threads, common themes, something that we would be known for. And when you get this feedback, it helps you to understand a little bit about that. Tabitha passes away, and who she was is called out. A funeral is a good space for reflection. And in the nature of my work, I've been a part of a number of funerals through the years. And funerals are never easy. They're always difficult, but they're difficult for different reasons. For some funerals, they're difficult because, honestly, the person who we're remembering, they lived their life so well, and they're just going to be missed. Man, they loved well, they loved deeply, they loved richly, and just the absence of their voice, the absence of their gifts, the absence of their graces, like it's going to be felt. Other funerals are difficult because, honestly, we're not quite sure what to say. The person didn't allow themselves to be known, or who they were lacked clarity. There was a lack of clarity of conviction of what they believed, what they held to. And so it can be that ambiguity is challenging for family. The third type of funeral that's difficult is because the person honestly didn't live well at all. They essentially wasted the one life they were afforded. They just honestly chose not to be a good person. They were stingy or greedy or had anger issues, closed themselves off from others. And those types of funerals are difficult as well. But in our text today, Tabitha passes away and the community is grieved at the loss, and she's that first time kind of difficult because she lived so well. Listen to the description of what most stood out as people reflected on her life and the loss to the community. It says, she was always doing good and helping the poor. Like, that's what people would talk about Tabitha, like, oh man, listen. And everybody had a Tabitha story. Listen, I was in a spot, I was really struggling, I was dealing with some, and Tabitha sat with me all evening and helped me kind of sort through the mess of it. Oh, well, Tabitha did that for me one time. We were moving, and Tabitha wasn't a strong woman, but boy, could she bake. And she made some snacks and some goodies for everybody else that was, oh, listen, I got to tell you my Tabitha story. I got to tell you everybody had a Tabitha story. It's humbling to think about. What would be said about you? What would be said about me? What would we hope would be said? Oh, man, he was a hard worker. He was at work all the time. Man, he climbed the ladder. Oh, she achieved such success. She had so many degrees. She was so smart. Oh, you always knew what they thought. Man, they expressed their opinion. Even if, I know they said they were Christian, but you wouldn't know it by the way they talked. Oh, they could curse like a sailor. Oh, they're stingy. Man, when the bill came due at the restaurant, you know they had alligator arms like, you beat me to it again. That's all right, Uncle. We know you never pick up the tab. What would you be known for? What would you hope to be known for? One way we can do this, I think it gets mentioned in the spiritual health reflection, which we'll talk about in January, is just a time audit. You've probably done this professionally before. If you haven't, it's a good practice. We all have the same amount of time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And some people are like, oh, I never have enough time. Well, you have the same as everybody else. And so just simply do a time audit and how am I spending my time? And so you say, I got up at this time and, man, first hour is spent in getting ready, or I do devotions, or have some time with the kids or the spouse or whatever it might be. I work from this time to this time, and then what do I do in those free times? Where do I sleep? And then you just look over like a 2-week span and you say, where am I spending my time? I didn't realize. We can do this with time, you can do this with finance, and it's just an easy way. They're very tangible ways to say, that's where I'm spending myself. That's what I would be known for. And please understand, our primary calling is to love and follow Jesus for life, so what should be primary to us is Jesus. And so I'd love to read the Bible more, I just don't have time. What do you have time for then? I'd love to gather together with other people, I'd love to make that a priority, I just don't have time. What's your primary calling? I'd love to be a more generous person, but listen, the way I'm budgeting right now in this season, see, primary calling, the way we spend our time, the way we spend our money, that's going to demonstrate to us what we're primarily called to. Secondary calling gets whatever's left over. Primary calling gets our best and our first. But this is the way the text goes on, picking back up in verse 39 down through 40. It says, Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken upstairs to the room. And all the widows stood around him crying. And listen, look what they did. It says they showed him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with him. Like, man, look, you understand. Like, look. They tell stories. She made this for my niece. She made this for my neighbor. Do you understand? She made these for the poor, and she would just go hand these things out. She prioritized this. We didn't have enough time, but she always managed time because her priorities were clear. Peter sent them all out of the room. It says, then he got down on his knees and he prayed. Turning toward the dead woman, he said, Tabitha, get up. And she opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. I mentioned last week that we shouldn't get to know God, or we shouldn't wait to get to know God and learn how to pray like when everything's desperate. You've waited too long. You prepare in advance for the trials. Although it definitely happens that people meet God in tough places. I think of Dave Ramsey. He's a kind of financial voice in the Christian world and just the world wide. And I remember him telling a story one time. He said, I got to know God on my way to the top, and then I met God on the way to the top, but then I really got to know him on my way down into the mess. But listen to what happens in this moment. It says, Peter clears the room, and then he gets down on his knees and he prays. Peter's first instinct, when life is going sideways and things are a mess, to take a physical posture of recognizing his dependence and need for God. We don't know how long he prayed. We don't know what he prayed. But we know his first instinct, his first move, his first response is to humble himself and listen for the voice of God. I don't know what you're supposed to pray when you get called in when someone's died. But we need to cultivate that similar habit in our own lives, where our first instinct is to get on our knees and to pray. You see, when we encounter a great challenge or great blessing, our first instinct should be to clear the room of the many voices, opinions, and ideas that are being shouted throughout the world, and then bend our knee to God and listen for him. There's no shortage of opinions. There's no shortage of ideas. There's no shortage of thoughts being thrown around. There does seem to be a shortage of quiet. And so Peter gives us this model of what to do. God, what do you call me to do in this moment? When it comes to my family, when it comes to my work, when it comes to my recreation, when it comes to my passions, when it comes to my fears, when it comes to my concerns. I should research this more. I should WebMD this. I'm going to type in my symptoms. I was dead an hour ago. No. Clear the voices. Clear the ideas. Bend your knee to God. And listen. This is what it says. Verses 41 through 43. He took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. And then he called for the believers, especially the widows, and presented her to them alive. This became known all over Joppa. And many people believed in the Lord. Peter stayed in Joppa for some time with a tanner named Simon. When we live into who God calls us to be, and when we do what God calls us to do, an impact is made. What happened became known all over, and as a result of this, many people believed in the Lord. And the primary aim of the Refinery Church, the primary aim of Christ Church in general, is to help people love and follow Jesus for life, however we say it. But we say it here is our primary aim is to help people love and follow Jesus for life. And so if somebody had a really negative encounter with the church or with Christians or those bearing Christ's name early in life, we hope to offer a counter perspective. Or if somebody never encountered God and there just wasn't room for it in their home or their life or their time, we hope to give reason to take a look at the things of God. For those that have been following after Jesus for a few weeks, few months, for years, for decades, the hope is that we can deepen our life of faith. We want to help people, all people, from farthest from God to those intimately connected to God, love and follow Jesus more for life. And that's the aim. That's the desire. So everything we do is built around that idea. That is our calling as a church. And when we do this, man, things change. Now, there's a caveat that you might notice, and you would maybe call out. You say, he's going to skip that over, Pastor? We're not physically raising people from the dead here. Could you imagine what that would be, though, if I was like, all right, for illustration this week, I don't think we'd have any empty seats next week. That'd be crazy. And I think that's fair. God is still doing the miraculous today. I think and I believe that, okay? It's a cognitive thing, it's a creedal thing for me. And that's a conversation for another day. We tend to just dismiss it, though, because it's for whatever reason. But I do believe that God still does the miraculous today. But we need to note, though, before we dismiss this idea further, what was it that led to Peter raising the woman back to life? Do you remember? The people are so grieved at the loss of Tabitha because of who she was and what she did. You remember what she did? She was constantly helping people. Always doing good. And helping the poor. Can anybody not do that? This is what unleashed the power of God. This is what created a moment. This is what created an opportunity for the power of God to work so powerfully in this situation. Because Tabitha consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, stewarded her life well. She was constantly doing good. Because she was called to a love for God which expressed itself in a love for people. She was constantly doing good, and she was always even helping the poor. There seemed to be no limit. It's just not this that she did good to the poor. She was constantly doing good to all people, and she helped the poor. Not a single one of us in this room can't do that. And that is ultimately what led to her being raised back to life, and that's ultimately what led people to coming to know Jesus. You and I. There's no reason we can't be known. We can't be known individually. We can't be known as families. We can't be known in the marketplace. We can't be known in our neighbors. There's no reason we can't be known as a church for being a people that just constantly do good and seeking to help the poor if we'll prioritize it. The simple reality of her living her life well changed everything. And we can do that. We can live into our calling. We can be who God is calling us to be. We can do what God is calling us to do. God isn't done with any of us yet. You realize that's why Tabitha's raised to life. God's like, I'm not done with you yet. If you have breath in your lungs today, God's not done with you yet. We're each called to walk with God. We're called to follow after the ways of Jesus, to walk in the power of the Holy Spirit. We're called to do something. From the very beginning of the story, God creates us as co-laborers. We're not just guests or visitors. We're each called to partner with God in the work of creating, reshaping, and making new the world all around us. You see, if there's breath in our lungs,